Do you guys wish that Tesla made a motorcycle? Yeah, so do I. And so did this Canadian gentleman as well. In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 reasons why this is the bike that Tesla never made.
And last question, who is it that would buy your motorcycle? Who are those pre-sales? Yeah. Are they people, because one thing about motorcyclists, they are very particular about what they ride.
Yeah.
So who do you look at?
Well, first and foremost, Tesla owners who ride motorbikes.
So why is the Damon Hypersport the motorcycle for Tesla fans? Let's take a quick look. So reason number 1 for me is the safety. Now, if you're a big Tesla fan like me, you know the Model 3, S, and X are currently the safest cars on the road. And the Damon Hypersport is shaping up to be the safest 2-wheeler on the road as well. So if you guys don't like dying on motorcycles, this is definitely the bike for you. The Damon Hypersport has a bunch of sensors, an LED display at the top of the windshield, a rear-facing camera, as well as a digital display in the front. All these components work together with an onboard computer just to help them make the rider more aware of other road users and potential hazards. Copilot is constantly monitoring its rider, its environment, and other vehicles on the road. It uses an artificially intelligent system that allows it to predict potentially life-threatening scenarios and help warn the rider. The rear-facing camera, this is embarrassingly obvious. Having a camera at the back means that the rider doesn't have to use mirrors, which in my experience tend to just give you a really nice view of your forearms and don't really contribute to rear visibility in my experience. Instead of those mirrors, the rider can quickly glance down at a digital display, find out what's going on behind them, and then bang, eyes can go straight back on the road. As for blind spots, the LED strip at the top of the windshield will flash yellow on the left or right hand side to indicate to you that there is a vehicle next to you that you can't see. And if the car in front of you pulls to an emergency stop and you're not watching, right? You're busy thinking about buying a Tesla or whatever it is you're thinking about, and you don't see this car come to a stop, well, the Damon Hypersport will actually light up the LED strip red and flash. The next step, it will vibrate the handlebars like a PlayStation controller when you crash in like Forza or something. Groundbreaking. Basically, even if you're not watching in front of you, the bike is. I don't know how many accidents are caused by people not paying attention to the car in front of them, but this gives you the opportunity to respond, and it means that someone is always watching for you. What makes Copilot even more impressive is every time you ride this bike, the artificial intelligence is constantly gathering information and getting better at assessing road users. It then sends this information via 4G to consolidate with all of its other Hypersport buddies, and together they develop a better understanding of other road users and get better and better and better at protecting their riders. So every mile you put on one of these bikes makes every single one of these bikes smarter. Where have you seen technology like that before? Reason number 2 is a pretty obvious one, it's performance. As you guys already know, Teslas are ludicrously fast. Most of their cars hit 60 mile an hour in 3 seconds or under, and the Damon Hypersport also achieves 60 mile an hour in under 3 seconds. But here's an elevator pitch our pal Steve Jobs would have been pretty damn proud of. This thing is capable of 200 horsepower, 200 miles an hour, and 200 miles of highway range. To quote the great Carroll Shelby, horsepower sells cars and torque wins races. And at 200 horsepower, Damon is probably gonna sell some bikes. Just for a bit of perspective, I've lined up a few of the competitors. We've got the race-happy Saralia Manx 7 at 163 horsepower. You got the sexy Energica Ego at 145 horsepower. And we've got Harley-Davidson's adopted deformed child, the Livewire, at 105 horsepower. The Hypersport also boasts 200 mile an hour top speeds, which is 320 kilometers an hour. And one more time, I'm gonna take a look at the competition. So the Saralia Manx 7, you're looking at 150 mile an hour. the Energica Ego, an identical 150 mile an hour. The Livewire coming in at 110 miles an hour. So if salt flat racing, your brand new electric bike, is what tickles your fancy, then the Damon Hypersport is definitely the bike for you. Reason number 3 is the range. Tesla are killing their electric competition on range. And at 200 miles of highway range, Damon is doing the same. So I'm sure you guys already know, we'll just do a brief overview. Combustion engines, electric bikes, they consume energy differently. When you're on the highway in a combustion engine bike, you're generally in a high gear, which means your RPM is lower and you're using less fuel. On an electric bike, you're going to be using higher RPM because most of these things are direct drive and there is no gearbox. What does that mean? It means that highway miles are harder to achieve for an electric motorcycle. But at 200 miles of highway range, which is 320 kilometers, that's pretty respectable even for a petrol bike, especially when you consider my old petrol Harley used to struggle to do that. So reason number 4, these guys are doing business like Tesla. What do I mean by that? So we're talking about the distribution model. Now, most traditional motorcycle manufacturers will sell their bikes to a dealer and then the dealers sell it to the consumer.
The thing that's really unique about Damon, a lot like Tesla, is we ship direct to consumer. So we're not dealing with the 12 to 15% gross profit margins of a Honda or General Motors, right? We're eliminating the distribution dealer model that really is the Achilles heel of the entire automotive industry.
Sure.
I appreciate dealers, I've run dealers, I've sold motorbikes. It's not in the future.
Obviously, this is going to cut down the costs because you're not paying the profit margin for the dealership and the manufacturer as well. However, this distribution model hasn't come without twisting up a few people's panties along the way. In the state of Texas, Tesla's not even allowed to sell their cars because of the distribution model. And on top of that, the dealers are going after their right to service their cars direct to consumer. To me, it feels a lot like when cab drivers were destroying Uber drivers' cars, but it's definitely an interesting debate. What do you guys reckon? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of doing business like Tesla, let's take a look at demand. So you guys probably already know that Tesla can't actually make enough cars to keep up with the demand. Now, Damon, when they released the bike at the Consumer Electronics Show, sold out of their first 25 models on the day. Now, these models, to make it even more interesting, are a more expensive, more exclusive version of the Hypersport called, you guessed it, the Founders Edition. Does it sound familiar? Well, it should, because that's what Tesla call their more expensive, more exclusive Tesla Roadster. Reason number 5 is that Damon is embarrassing legacy automakers just like Tesla does. Harley-Davidson have been making motorcycles for literally more than 100 years. And this is their attempt at the future. It's called the Livewire. But as I mentioned before, the Damon Hypersport does twice the miles an hour and twice the horsepower. Goes twice as fast and has twice as many horses. Not to mention, it's $5,000 cheaper than the Livewire. Oh, and I forgot to mention that it does 300 miles of city range, which, you guessed it, is double what the Livewire can do at 146. Another thing I'd like to point out, if you guys have ever bought a bike from a big major brand like Harley-Davidson, Kawasaki, any of those guys, and you want to change your riding position to either be more sporty or more comfortable, you're generally going to have to fork out for handlebars, foot peg mounts, and it's a pretty expensive exercise. Meanwhile, in Canada,
why can't we have this on every bike that goes out the showroom floor? You can instantly tailor it to your specs, and it seems like a no-brainer for any of the major manufacturers to jump on board this technology instead of having the mechanical, refitting of certain parts that they offer now to get you in the door like Kawasaki does. But
this system is called Shift, and it's a no-brainer, and it's very consumer focused, which is exactly like Tesla. So there you have it, guys. That's the 5 reasons that this is the motorcycle that Tesla never made, and you guys should definitely get around it if you are a Tesla fan who likes motorcycles. Oh, and by the way, if that's you, you should hit subscribe because I'll keep bringing you futuristic motorcycle technology every single week. My name is Max, this is Moto Futurism, and I'll talk to you guys in the future.